What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it with another video. Today we are continuing the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I have a very special deck for you today. We are still in Dark Arm Return format of 2008, but I have a very interesting deck for you. Aaron Diaz's Shadow Priest of Ohm FTK. This deck could FTK really consistently, but not only that, this deck basically can shuffle or draw through your whole entire deck in like one turn, and it opts to FTK by recycling Dimension Fusion in combination with Spell Economics, Dark Magician of Chaos, and Shadow Priest of Ohm to keep banishing Dark Magician of Chaos over and over and over again. Now that you know the win con, let's just go ahead and hop right into the profile. So to start things off, we'll just go ahead and start with the more generic cards. We have Stratos, which was, a centerpiece of the Destiny Hero engine, which was really popular at this time. And then he opted to play 3 copies of Destiny Hero Plasma. You might be wondering why 3 Plasma. Well, this deck was basically going to be drawing through the whole entire deck in the span of a turn, so that's why they also played a singular copy of Dogma. It's very rare that you would be summoning Plasma offensively, but it can come up. But however, Plasma is mainly here for D-Draw, it's mainly here for the cards like Trade-In, and then in addition, you could also use it with Greffer or whatever the case may be, but these cards are basically just engine pieces. But in combination, it wouldn't be a Destiny Hero engine at this time without Disc Commander and Destiny Hero Fearmonger. Now, Disc Commander has since been errated. However, this is the old text, and the old text states, when this card is special summoned from the graveyard, draw 2 cards. Any card that says draw 2 cards is just insane. But yeah, so that's really it for the monsters in the Destiny Hero engine. And then he opted to play Dark Magician of Chaos and Dark Nephthys. You might be wondering, why Dark Nephthys? Well, it's very easy. This card actually has a pretty good effect in an instance if you can't FTK, but also it's a level 8 for Trade-In. You can also use this with Allure of Darkness, but bringing this back off Dimension Fusion is also in the realm of possibilities too. But the main reason why they would play this, other than just being an engine piece, being a dark level 8, is you can remove from play 2 dark monsters when you have 3 or more of them to send it to the graveyard, and when this card is sent to the graveyard by this effect, summon it during your next standby phase. That may not seem that strong, but if you need to banish your darks from your graveyard, it definitely matters, and it can come up quite a bit, so it just serves as pretty good utility. But in addition to that, we also have other engine pieces, such as Dark Greffer, and then he opted to play 3 Brow, Huntsman of the Dark World. Now, you may be wondering why he played Brow. Well, as I mentioned previously, this deck can draw through the whole deck in one turn. So very common, he would play Dark World Dealings. So since you are going to see 1 of 3 copies of Dark World Dealings, especially after digging 10 to 20 cards into your deck, this is just going to net you a free draw, so you don't lose advantage off the Dark World Dealings. But then in addition to that, we also had the boss monster, Shadow Priest of Ohm. Now, this card is the main card of this deck. Shadow Priest of Ohm basically ensures that you can FTK. This card is one of the singular most important cards of this deck. There are some other variations that might play Tomb Cannon Soldier or, whatever the case may be. However, I'm reluctant to say that that is better. I honestly think the way that Aaron crafted his deck was genius, because he lost in the finals to Jerry Wang, who was playing Dark Arm Return. However, just being able to facilitate the Destiny Hero engine in addition to Dark Magician of Chaos, and being able to facilitate drawing through your whole deck in one turn just means that this deck is not one to be slept on. And I think this is the more consistent version, if you ask me. All right, moving on to all the spells. This will go rather quickly because it's just a bunch of draw cards. He opted to play 3 Allure of Darkness. Every monster in this deck is dark. And then for the Destiny Hero engine, we have 3 Destiny Draw. And since we are playing a sufficient amount of level 8s, we also have 3 Trade-In. Trade-In is really, really good in this deck because we always are going to have a level 8 for the most part. But then, in addition to that, he also played 3 Dark World Dealings because he does play Brow, but not to mention discarding a Dark Magician of Chaos only to like Premature Burial or Monster Reborn it is a very strong play as well. But in addition, got 3 Upstart Goblin because 1,000 life points for your opponent doesn't really matter if you're just going to FTK loop them and just keep burning them with Shadow Priest. And then we have engine pieces, we have reinforcements of the army. This is going to net us either Stratos, a Dark Grepher, or a Fearmonger, which is very good because if we've already used Stratos to search like a Plasma, we can also reinforcements of the army for a Fearmonger if we have a Destiny Draw late in the combo. And then in addition to this, he did opt to play 2 copies of Hand Destruction. Now, while I think this card is a little bit lackluster, I will say one thing, Hand Destruction is kind of necessary in a way, only because of the principle of we need more draw cards. And we pretty much play every draw card that can synergize with this deck at this time. Allure, Destiny Draw, Trade-In, Dark World Dealings, Upstart Goblin. So Hand Destruction is simply just serving as a purpose for another draw card. But then we have our good one-ofs, Premature Burial, Monster Reborn. This deck does play Card Destruction because it's very easy to open up with a cloggy hand, but a singular Card Destruction can just win you the game very easily. But then we do have a copy of Heavy Storm, just because we want to just be able to clear up our opponent's back row, just so we can FTK go on second, maybe. But then he does play a singular copy of Beginning of the End. Now you may be wondering why he plays this. You have to think about it, we're drawing through our whole entire deck, and the odds of us ending up with 7 or more dark monsters in the graveyard is very high. So being able to banish 5 of them to draw 3 cards is really good, especially by the time you're resolving the Beginning of the End, you probably have 5 or less cards left in deck. So if you haven't drawn it already, you are trying to get to these 2 cards right here, Spell Economics and Dimension Fusion. Dimension Fusion is the win con of the deck, as well as Spell Economics. You might think there's justification for playing more, but trust me when I say this deck can draw through the whole deck in one turn, given you don't just brick. So yeah, it doesn't really matter if you play these as a one-of, even though you want to see them to consistently FTK. It doesn't matter if you're just drawing through your whole deck. So there's really no justification of playing more of these, especially considering you don't want to brick and you just want to have the maximum amount of engine. But yeah, so this deck is really fun. I will say that. Aaron Diaz was a genius for crafting this deck. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of context before exiting the video, just in case you're not really sure how this goes. So simply, Shadow Priest of Ohm says, tribute a Face of Dark to inflict 800 damage to your opponents. Okay, so here's what we are opting to do. So with Spell Economics on the field, we don't have to pay life points to activate any spell cards, meaning we can activate Dimension Fusion with no cost whatsoever. So we would opt to just go Spell Economics to revive Dark Magician of Chaos, or Spell Economics, Dimension Fusion to bring back Dark Magician of Chaos. Dark Magician of Chaos, add back any spell, probably just Dimension Fusion because we're trying to FTK, but you also want to be able to have Shadow Priest on the field because now you can just tribute a face-up Dark, Demock, and then inflict 800. And then you can activate Dimension Fusion with no cost to bring it back, recycle Dimension Fusion again, and just keep doing it. It's actually a pretty crazy loop. But yeah, so that does it for this profile. This is one of my more exciting decks to showcase because not very many people even know that this deck was ever a thing. However, it almost won a Shonen Jump, and this deck was almost never saw again. But yeah, so that does it for this profile. Thank you for watching the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And stay tuned for the next episode.